Listen, y'all know I don't have kids. I don't. But I feel like we got some really poor examples of parenting today. Hi my lovelies, it's Rebecca Rogers. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy that each and every one of you are here. Happy Tuesday. Kind of a dance move was that? I don't know, just kind of came to me, I don't know. But as it's Tuesday, it's time for a weekly episode of Am I the Bad Apple? Where, if you've never joined us before, people send in submissions and we decide whether they're a good apple, a bad apple, or a crab apple, somewhere in between. If you still don't get it, that's okay. I'm gonna put a little button to the playlist so you can see more about it. But for the rest of us, let's get started with this week's episode of Am I the Bad Apple? Let's go apple picking! And it's fall, so you can actually go apple picking in real life too. Apple number 1. Am I the bad apple for telling my brother and sister-in-law that their kid's a monster of their own making? My nephew Dylan is 16, and my brother Jesse and his sister-in-law Nicole suffered years of infertility before they had Dylan. Due to miscarriages and even a stillbirth before Dylan, they were terrified to try again and potentially lose another child. We all shared this fear, but thankfully my nephew was born healthy. But because Jesse and Nicole have been so focused on the fear of potentially losing Dylan, that they won't tell him no, and they don't enforce any boundaries. They excuse his unacceptable behavior and they just say that we should all be grateful Dylan's healthy and here with us. Just a side note, some of our family members have even suggested therapy to Jesse and Nicole because the trauma of their previous infertility clearly is still with them, but they insist they have a child here with them now, so everything is fine and we should stop bringing it up. All of Dylan's teachers say he's a very respectful and focused kid. Dylan is clearly capable of behaving, but his behavior at home is unacceptable because unlike school, there's no boundaries or consequences enforced on him at home. Dylan cusses, he breaks things, he flips off his parents, all until he gets his own way. Just the other day, Nicole asked Dylan to please wash his cup, and Dylan responded with, "How about you go F yourself instead?" Dylan's left multiple dents in both Jesse and Nicole's cars while stealing it, because he hasn't even begun driver's ed. But Jesse and Nicole just insist that bad influence kids are to blame for Dylan's home behavior and these bad kids are manipulating Dylan to act this way. Jesse and Nicole don't take any accountability for their enabling and lack of boundaries. Last week, the two of them arrived at our family dinner completely exhausted. They explained that Dylan broke their flat screen TV after Jesse and Nicole told Dylan to get off his Xbox so they could use the TV. Jesse asked if I could help them out with a new TV, and if so, it would be greatly appreciated. I'm childless and in my 30s, so I'm the most financially well off and usually the one everyone comes to for help. I suggested that instead they make Dylan get a job, because he'll learn to be much more respectful of their property after he experiences the hard work that goes into earning money. They immediately shamed me for being so irresponsible because a kid shouldn't have to worry about keeping a job, and come on, Rose, be an adult. I said, look, if you want to talk about being adults, you need to stop blaming everyone else for Dylan's behavior because he's a monster of your own making. Some of the other dinner guests immediately started siding with Jesse and Nicole because I have no idea how hard it is to punish your miracle child or make your miracle child unhappy. And I've never known the heartache that comes with years of infertility or the devastation of a stillbirth. And they insisted that I still could have been stingy without starting a fight and ruining an unpleasant family dinner. They're the ones that came to me asking for a whole flat screen TV. I didn't think I was in the wrong, but no one else seems to be on my side here, so am I the bad apple? I, like this Rose person, don't know what it's like to struggle with infertility. I don't know what it's like to deal with some of the traumatic issues that these parents clearly have. I don't know what it's like to be a parent in general. I still don't think that a 16-year-old purposefully breaking a television because you asked to use it is normal. The whole, I can't possibly make this child unhappy.
It's a no for me, dog.
And I say that knowing that I've taught some of those kids whose parents refuse to make them unhappy in the slightest bit. Listen. I've seen kids who are perfectly respectable at school, at jobs, at whatever, and then at home are complete trash cans of human beings. And it is the parents' fault. And don't get me wrong, I'm gonna say it again. I don't know what it's like to have that kind of trauma. But your previous trauma doesn't mean that everyone else has to deal with the temperamental issues that you create when you refuse to tell your kid no. And okay, this kid, Dylan, is respectful at school. That's great. That shows that he knows how to act respectfully. He knows how he should act. And if it's just at home for his parents, okay, that's their business. That's how they allow him to treat them. But you're now insisting other people pay for the temper tantrums that you've allowed. No! Why are people calling this Rose person stingy when they can't buy their own TV? Why is it stingy of her not buying a flat screen for someone else, but not of them for not wanting to buy their own new flat screen because their kid can't act right at home? And he's 16. Lots of 16-year-olds have jobs. I've worked. I've never not had a job since I was 16. I was a hostess until I was old enough to be a waitress, and then I was a waitress until I was old enough to be a bartender, and then I did that until I graduated and became a teacher, and now I'm here. Constantly had a job, and it taught me a lot of responsibility. It taught me a lot of skills that I used throughout life to end up here. I don't understand what is so awful about a 16-year-old having a job. It helped shape who I am, and it taught me a lot of responsibility and a lot of life skills. And definitely appreciation for material things like this kid clearly needs. Like, I'm not a mom shamer, and I think that how you run your own household is your business. But the moment it starts impacting other people and other people become responsible for your household actions, that's when it becomes a problem. I don't think Rose is a bad apple. I think she's a good apple. If someone feels the right to expect Rose to pay for their luxury items that they just allow to be destroyed by their kid, in general, if she was just a bystander and she was like, wow, your kid's a monster, he needs a job, blah, 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 I wouldn't think that would be any of her business, right? But the fact that they came to her and said, yeah, our kid completely destroyed our TV, you really should get us another one. Don't be stingy, you know, it's your responsibility as our rich sibling. That's the moment that it became Rose's business, okay? To me, considering what you asked of her, I think everything she said was justified. Does anyone disagree with me? Are there parents out there that have different points of view or different perspectives because you have experienced different parts of life than me? I would love to know what you think. But I genuinely don't see anything wrong with how she acted considering the circumstances. Let me know if you agree or not though. Apple number 2. Am I the bad apple for making my son walk the dog? My wife, 39 female, and I, 42 male, have 3 sons. Alex, 15, Dylan, 11, and Jake, 8. When I was a kid, I always wanted a dog, but my parents always said no. I never got the chance to get one during my 20s, but recently my interest in owning one has sparked again, so I asked my family what they thought about getting a dog. My wife wasn't enthusiastic about it, but she relented after a few weeks of me asking. Alex and Jake were so excited to get a dog, but Dylan was immediately opposed to the idea. Dylan's always been a little different from my other sons, and he never had an interest in sports, and he's always been more subdued than his brothers, which has always made it hard for me to connect with him. He remained opposed to the idea of getting a dog, but me and my other sons managed to wear him down until he finally relented. However, he said that if we did get a dog, he wasn't gonna be interacting with it or taking care of it, that it would be completely on me and his brothers. I found this ridiculous, but I agreed at the moment, assuming that he would change his mind after actually meeting the dog. The problem is, he hasn't changed his mind yet. We've had Zeus for 7 months now, and Dylan hasn't warmed up to him in the slightest. He doesn't play with the dog, he doesn't cuddle with him, he doesn't let Zeus into his room because he destroys stuff, and whenever he's near the dog, he just ignores him. I find this completely ridiculous. Zeus loves Dylan. He follows him around whenever he sees him and jumps on him to get his attention and play, but Dylan just isn't receptive to it. To change this, I told Dylan last week that he's gonna be in charge of walking the dog every day after school. Dylan straight up refused and has shut down any conversation every time I bring it up. It's been a week and he still hasn't walked the dog once. In my frustration, I told him if he didn't start listening, I wouldn't allow him to go to the comic book store anymore, and he freaked out and told my wife. Now, my wife is upset with me, claiming that I knew what I was getting into with this and I knew Dylan wouldn't be playing with the dog, but his intolerance of the dog is weird and I refuse to entertain that any longer. My wife has been short with me ever since that conversation and Dylan is cold with me as well. Even Alex is now agreeing with his mother, which is making me have second thoughts. There's gotta be other animal lovers out there who understand, so I need to know, was I the bad apple? Is this real? How can you be a grown adult and be this dense? Not everybody likes animals. It's what it is, okay? I love my cats. Y'all know I love my cats more than anything in this world.
They call her the cat lady.
I also understand there are people out there that don't like cats. Just like there are people out there that don't like dogs. Your son might just be one of those people and that's okay. And he was clear with you. He didn't want a dog. He didn't have an interest in a dog. So why is it so surprising to you that when you got the dog, that didn't change? I understand that you love dogs. That's so great. I'm so glad Zeus is loved by you and your other two sons. Wonderful. I'm so glad he has a loving home. But your kids don't have to love everything that you love just because they're your kids. People aren't always gonna share your interests. That's just life. It just baffles me that first of all, a grown man is like, I'm gonna ask my kids about me getting a dog. Why? You're a grown up. If you want the dog and you're gonna take care of the dog and pay for the dog and be responsible for the dog, get the dog. Why would you care if one of your kids was like, no thanks? I mean, I take that back, because if one of them was genuinely afraid of dogs or something like that, or allergic, yeah, you wanna take that into consideration, right? That's my childlessness not thinking about those kinds of consequences, okay? But in general, you're a grown man.
And you're like, let me ask my kids if I'm allowed to get a dog.
I don't have experience with that kind of stuff. I need someone to tell me. Is that normal? But then second of all, you got the dog under the condition that this kid didn't want anything to do with it. And you accepted. And yeah, you assumed that he was gonna change his mind after, but you still accepted under the condition that this kid didn't want anything to do with it, that you and his brothers were gonna take care of this dog. And then as punishment for not bonding with the dog, he now has to take care of the dog?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
You're punishing him for not sharing your own childhood dream. That's weird.
You have to like all the things I like or you're grounded.
You're the bad apple, my guy. Just let the kid go to the comic store and do the things he likes to do. He doesn't have to just want to do the things you wanted to do as a kid. Let him be his own person. Apple number 3. Am I the bad apple for not inviting one kid from my daughter's class to her birthday party? I, 28 female and husband 29 male, have a daughter named Peyton, 7 male. Peyton goes to a small school with 20 kids in her grade. Her birthday party's next month and we personally handed out invitations to her friends at school. We invited the whole class except for one student. The student we didn't invite has bullied Peyton numerous times. She tells her she's chubby, she says she's not pretty, and she just makes her come home crying all the time. We've had numerous meetings with the school and the girl's parents about this, but obviously Peyton does not want this kid at her party. The other girl's mom called me to talk about it, saying how now her daughter is crying and she's the only kid not invited, and everyone at school is talking about this party. Peyton's parties are known by her classmates as pretty over the top. I explained her daughter isn't nice to my daughter and that's the reason she wasn't invited, and you should know this. The mom said that I'm teaching Peyton to be a bully and use her wealth to make friends. I disagreed. The mother then asked if she had her daughter write an apology note to Peyton, would we reconsider? I said no, if that was really a concern, she would have had her do it beforehand and not now just because she wasn't invited to a party. Now it's become a big deal every time I see this mom at school, so I need to know. Was I the bad apple? Y'all already know what I'm gonna say. Every time we get one of these stories where it has to do with inviting the entire class to the birthday party. No, I don't think that should ever be a rule. I don't think that should ever be expected. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And I know the Karens in the comments are gonna be like, Rebecca, you don't know what it's like to have a kid that's not included. No, but I do know what it's like to be that kid that's bullied, being the one that was always teeny tiny, the size of kindergartners when we were in 5th grade, or being Jewish, or having the big nose or the big forehead, or, you know, whatever it was at the time. Have you heard my voice? Do you actually think I've gone my entire life without people giving me crap about how annoying my voice sounds? Y'all, I'm 26 years old, and I still, to this day, have had grown adults, not even just crazy trolls on the internet, grown adults in person, in my life, complain about how obnoxious and annoying I am. So no, I don't know what it's like to have a kid who's left out, but I know what it's like to be that kid that's made fun of. No, they don't get to go to the party. And no, you're not a bad apple for not inviting them. And my biggest problems with this mom, not Peyton's mom, the other mom. How can you not know why your kid's not invited to this party? What are you teaching your daughter that those you're mean to, you should still be invited to their parties? You should still be given goodie bags for their birthdays. You should still be included. Even if you're mean to people, they should give you all the things that everyone else gets. No. And then you're also teaching her,
Now that you're being left out of something, now you should say sorry. Not that you mean it, but you want to be included, right? So like, say you're sorry.
that's very dishonest. Why did you not care this much before your daughter wasn't invited to a birthday party? And lastly, and I feel like not as many people are gonna care about this, but I care about this, it's really gross to me that clearly this little girl does not like Peyton. Doesn't like her at all. And the mom's like, it's okay, you can just pretend to be her friend so you can go. That's not how you make friends. That's not real friendship. As a parent, why would you encourage your kid to go to this party for a girl that she clearly doesn't like? It's just to see the nice things and get the nice things. So it's not only gross from the bully perspective, but it's also so dishonest and just fake. Yikes. That's not a good look, Karen. You're a bad apple. Peyton and her mom are good apples, and I hope they have the best birthday party ever, because she deserves it. Apple number 4. Am I the bad apple for refusing to pay my gay son's tuition? What did I just read? My 40 female son, 19 male, came out to my husband, 40 male, and I when he was 14 years old. My husband and I are both atheists and support the LGBTQ community, and we're proud of our son for coming out. However, my husband's mother is a devout Catholic and is extremely intolerant of gay people. She's very wealthy, and my children were told from a young age that their college would be paid for as long as they attended a private Christian or Catholic school. She believes that'll keep them from partying and other inappropriate things that teenagers usually do. I don't agree with that and have argued that my children getting the best education possible, regardless of the school's religious affiliation, should be her top priority, but she refuses to change her mind. My son chose a Christian college, one state over to attend. He graduated with a ton of college credit from taking so many AP classes in high school, so he'll be done in 3 years as opposed to 4. He currently began year 2, which has already been paid for. During Labor Day weekend, he came home to celebrate his grandmother's birthday. He told one of his cousins that he was talking to a boy at his college and thought he could trust him. He seemed supportive according to my son, but he told his mom and dad, and my husband's sister and her husband are just as religious as my mother-in-law and outed my son to her. She's livid and called me to inform me she won't be making any future payments towards his tuition and told me to relay this message to him as she'll no longer be speaking to him. I've told him many times not to come out to his grandma, his cousins, his aunt, or his uncle until he was through with college. I hate that he can't be himself, but my husband and I cannot afford his college. I don't like my mother-in-law and will be going no contact once my other 2 children, 15 and 13, get their chance to have their tuition paid for as well. And my son's okay with me waiting to do that for the sake of his siblings. He'll unfortunately have to take out loans and eat the cost of his final year. My son is obviously devastated that he now has to pay for his last year of college and that his cousin's not someone that he can trust. He now wants me and my husband to foot the bill next year. We have $25,000 saved up currently that we plan on using for much needed kitchen renovations. Our oven barely works and our dishwasher doesn't work at all, and the kitchen itself is worn down and outdated. My son is calling me a jerk for prioritizing a remodel over his education. We've explained to him that our kitchen is falling apart and it's much needed and is nowhere near the cost of his tuition. So even if we postpone the remodel, we'd still be short as his private school is very expensive. I feel like he's an adult and he needs to be the one to deal with the consequences and not us. So, am I the bad apple for not using our family's savings to cover his remaining tuition? Oh, wow. That is heavy. And this one feels very difficult for me because I don't have experience in any of these walks of life. I say any, but at the same time, I've literally had someone on some side of the family give me a book on why my family and my dad's side of the family are going to the bad place because they're Jewish. So I have experience in that, but none of the other things. You know, I'm not a grandparent. Luckily, both my grandmothers love me very much. No strings attached. Obviously not a parent, not a part of the LGBTQ community. So I'm going to give you guys my opinions based off of the fact that I don't have experience in most of this, okay? Let's get the easiest thing out of the way, okay? Grandma, bad apple. If you're a grandparent or parent that has conditional love for their kids or grandkids, I don't like you that much. Aunt and uncle, also bad apples. Not any of your business. Cousin, bad apple. You were trusted, my guy, and you blew it for everybody. And I'm gonna pause right there because I know there's gonna be a lot of people in my comment section who are like,
how dare you give them bad apple? They don't have to be okay with something that goes against their religion.
I'm not even going to get into that debate today. I've recently found that my blood pressure is, in general, higher than it should be. So, for the sake of my health, that's not gonna be the discussion I get in today. What I am going to say is that going out of your way to ruin someone's life, to destroy their relationship with their family members is not okay. Especially over something that doesn't concern you. It has nothing to do with you in the slightest bit. I'm honestly so sad for this kid that his cousin and aunts and uncles felt the need to take it upon themselves to potentially destroy his future. Yes, Gretchen, I'm aware that grandmother has grandmother's views and that her money can be spent the way she wants to, but what you're failing to realize is that it's not the aunt or uncle's or cousin's business. It has nothing to do with them. Butt out. Next, I will move on to, I actually know multiple people who have very close-minded family members offer to pay for school and things like that, who are a part of the LGBTQ community and just kind of lay low until it's paid for, and then once they graduate, they're like, haha, you funded me, guess what? I actually know quite a few people who have done that. Is that something that I would have done if I were in that situation? No, but it's because I'm of the mentality of, oh, you don't support me? I'm gonna go do it on my own. But how people deal with their family and their family agreements, that's not my business. What I do think is that if you are going to play the game, then you gotta play the game. The kid knew, hey, you're laying low for 1 more year. He's in college. He's not a kid. He didn't just accidentally slip because he didn't know any better. He made the choice to tell his cousin, you didn't play the game.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground.
And now, do I think that the kid is in the wrong? No, of course not. He shouldn't have to play the game. He shouldn't have to hide who he is. He shouldn't have to not talk about someone who makes him happy at school. It's not fair that he couldn't be himself with his family. But he knew the consequences. As unfair as they were, he still made the choice to risk it all. When you have family like that, you have to play the game. Again, not faulting him for him just wanting to be himself, okay? He's not the bad apple by any means. What I don't like is that he slipped up and then expected his parents to cover all the costs. It's not a fair situation. It's so unfair, but your parents can't afford that either. I'm not saying it wouldn't be nice if your parents helped, but the money they have saved up, they can't afford that on their own anyways. There would still need to be a loan. Who do you expect to take out the loan? I don't like the situation he's in, but I also don't like him just, well, don't get an oven that works. You don't need a dishwasher. Take out a loan and help me out. That doesn't sit right with me. And the parents, my mentality is, you don't support me, I don't need you. So I don't really know how I feel about the whole, we're gonna use you to pay off these bills, but then we're gonna go no contact. That's just not who I am as a person. Between the parents and the kid, I don't think anyone's a bad apple. apple. The situation's not fair for any of them. But I also don't think that they're good apples. I'm gonna have to go with crab apples. I don't know. This one's really hard for me. And I mostly say crab apple because, again, I don't know how I feel about the whole, well, we're just gonna use them for their money and then we're gonna kick them to the curb. Because it's not that I don't get it, okay? The conditional love and the idea of the intolerance, like that's gross. I personally would just cut off, but not everyone is like that. And that's, you know, that's your business. You do what you gotta do with your family and the relationships in it. I don't know, it just feels so tricky to me. But I also don't think the parents are bad apples, you know? Even if they used the $25K, they would still be short. Someone would still have to get a loan. And my mom has 3 kids. She needs a dishwasher, okay? She deserves a dishwasher. Let me know what you guys think. I need to know. This one's just really hard. There's just so many things that I'm having trouble relating to because I haven't experienced it. And I'm sure there's so many factors that I'm not considering or thinking of or things that I just don't know. So I would love your input. I would love to know what you guys think. Some updates for everybody. Apparently while I was on vacation for a couple weeks, some 8 and 9-year-olds kept posting inappropriate stories on my subreddit. I wasn't in town, I didn't see them, and I didn't even think to ask Avery to check my subreddit. So that drew Reddit's attention, and they were like, people have to be 13 in order to be on Reddit, and you have a lot of underage kids here. So it was restricted for a couple weeks until I was able to get back because they wanted to lock it down until I was able to actually take a look and help them clean it out. But I also didn't know about the age restriction on Reddit. No idea. So I'm gonna have to come up with another option for younger kids to be able to send Am I the Bad Apple submissions. But if you're 13 or older, the subreddit is working again. It is r/Am I the Bad Apple. I've heard a lot of your feedback. A lot of people said that they were very hesitant of me acting out stories from the series because some of the stories, as we've seen today, are more serious and we don't want to be offensive to anyone and their experiences, okay? But I did try to add little memes and more pop-up things to make things more engaging. So I just want to know what you think and if you guys liked it, if you didn't like it. You know, I love the feedback. For us today, that is 2 good apples, 1 bad apple, 1 crab apple. Let me know your votes down in the comments. You know, I love to hear reasonings. If there's some kind of perspective that I'm missing or that I didn't say, would love to hear your feedback. Again, that doesn't mean other people will agree with you, but you never know. It was a little warmer out today, but hopefully it's getting colder where you are because fall weather is the best weather. When you get your hot chocolate or your apple cider, I hope it is the perfect temperature and I hope you have all the marshmallows for all your hot chocolate dreams. And as always, thank you so much for joining me. I love you guys so much. Absolutely adore every single one of you and I'll see you guys next week. Bye, my lovelies. Mwah.